Hey y'all. Hey. It's me, Kashia Sharice. How are you all today? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So I wanted to come on today because I post every day for the most part. I post about spiritual warfare. And I want to have discussions centered around spiritual warfare because a lot of people are experiencing spiritual warfare and they don't know that they're experiencing it, or they don't know that they're in the wilderness, or they don't know that they're being attacked spiritually, right? So I want to be able to come on and talk about the different posts that I put up here for you to see. And I'm going to kind of briefly touch on some of the posts that I have had up here, okay? Because I feel like it's important to be able to talk about these topics which are so prevalent today. There are many people that are experiencing spiritual warfare, and they don't have anybody to teach them how to combat. Where's my Bible as I'm saying that? They don't have anybody to teach them how to combat, what to do to fight against, right? How to stop people from continuing to siphon their energy or to manipulate or to how to combat those spells that people try to put upon them. And spells can be things like people talking bad about them, right? That is putting something on somebody's life. When you sit and you gossip about somebody and their life, when you have no idea about their life. Because you can sit there, and there's people who sit there and they have grown up with a person. They have known a person maybe in their younger years or even their 20s, 30s. They may have even known them last year. And they sit up there and they gossip. And they take the stance of talking bad about that person and putting things upon their life. That is not of God. You are speaking negative on somebody's life. And when you do that, that is called witchcraft. And a lot of people don't know that. I didn't even know it. So, I want to start talking about it because that needs to be normalized. Everything else is. Sin is normalized. So why can't talking about spiritual warfare be normalized? Why can't talking about how good God is be normalized? Why can't talking about demonic things that we see every day on this internet or in life be normalized? Why can't talking about how we come against, call out, bind up these demonic things that tries to overtake our life is normalized? So if I got to be one that joins the conversation, I'm doing it. As I'm doing that, I am eating my tofu with wild rice. Amen. So, as I'm eating, and this is a lunch for me, yeah, I am going to talk about that. So, let me look. I'm going to talk about some of the posts that I put here. I know today I posted, when you forget your worth, you tolerate what you were meant to overcome. Now, this post is so needed to be talked about, because when you know your worth, you don't tolerate certain things from yourself or from people who have demons on them, who have spirits on them. I always say people do have spirits, because I've had them on me. I fought hard to not fall into the traps again of having those spirits again. Because when you have a generational line that is used to operating within those spirits, they're always lurking, ready to come back in with not just one, but several. Because read the Bible. They're always looking. Okay? So, let's look up the definition of worth. What does that mean? And this is from the Oxford language. Worth means equivalent in value to the sum of items specified, or it means the value equivalent to that of someone or something under consideration. The level at which someone or something deserves to be valued or rated. Okay? So, the level at which someone or something deserves to be valued or rated. What does valued mean? It's good to understand definitions, because then you can add onto it on what your perspective is and add to it. Or it can just take on a meaning just for you, right? Valued means considered to be important or beneficial, cherished. That's what value means. So when this post says, when you forget your worth, when you forget your value, when you forget how beneficial you are, when you forget how cherished you should be, right? You tolerate, you put up with, you accept what you were meant to overcome. So since I'm transparent and I love talking about the things that I have overcome and the things that I have been through, let me talk about myself. For me, let me take a bite of my tofu, because this tofu, it's toasted too. And it's seasoned. Okay, one moment. This is called multitasking. Because, see, there we go. It's always a domino effect. That's why I gotta be careful. Clumsy. I gotta be careful. Domino. So, for me, there are things that I have overcome. There are things that I have set in place. One thing I would say is boundaries. Look, it's always one. It's always one. Get back. And it's always one in the back too. I'm actually have these clipped right now. Always one. In life, in period, it's always one. But, so, for me, boundaries are so important. I didn't realize that not setting boundaries would have people thinking that they could do what they wanted to do in your life. Right? So, when I didn't have boundaries, people knew I didn't have boundaries. So they would use manipulation tactics to try to make me feel guilty or bad for decisions that I made, or even when I tried to set boundaries. They would try to use manipulation or guilt tactics, which is a spirit. That's a spirit. And I would fall into it because of my heart, of my not understanding those type of spirits, knowing that they were operating, right, in something. And the closer the person is to you, the less you are able to recognize right away, easily, especially if you are just going on your journey of getting to know yourself and also just building a relationship with God. Like when you're in the early stages of, I'm on my journey of giving everything to God and surrendering, and I'm in my early stages of understanding all of this spiritual stuff that operates in this world. The people closest to you, you do not always see the spirit that is working within them, because the love that you have for them is so strong. So I've had that in my life since a child. And I didn't always recognize. I always knew that it didn't make me feel good when a person would manipulate, lie, or even try to make me feel guilty about my no. So I would enable, because that's what it's called, when you enable somebody, when you give in to their desires, what they want, is called you're enabling. Enabling means that you're a part of the problem. And I was definitely a part of the problem. I didn't hold people accountable when they should have been. No matter who they are, a person should be held accountable for what they do. And if they are not holding themselves accountable and instead blaming you, or instead switching it around to you or deflecting, that's a spirit. So I had a hard time setting boundaries, especially with family and boyfriends and husbands. A husband, I only had one. I had a hard time doing that. Now, because I am single, now because I am operating from a healthy place, a spiritual place, and I'm wise and knowledgeable, I set boundaries for myself first. You know why? Because I know that my flesh always has desires, right? My flesh has desires that I have to die to myself daily to. I set boundaries for myself so that if I'm close to crossing it, I can check myself. But not only do I have that set in place, God checks me too. And I let him, because I surrendered and I listen to God. So not only do I have a boundary for myself, for me, what I would say, no, you cannot do that type of thing. Like, you can't cross that. Like, you can't do those things that you used to do. Because if you do those things, you're going to have repercussions. You're going to have repercussions. You're going to have consequences. You're going to have, and God reminds me, if you do that, daughter, there would be some things that follow that you don't like, because you've been through it before. So why are you putting yourself through it again, right? And I heard something today that stopped me in my tracks when it comes to some of the things that my flesh may desire. But it made me say, don't you go back in that hole. Don't you go back in that cycle. What I heard today someone say was, they said, why would you put your, okay, and it comes to being disciplined for the things that your flesh may desire. They said, why would you put yourself in a situation in which you know your flesh will desire or be tempted by? And then use, because you're using the analogy that you're going to refrain, rebuke, or not fall into that temptation. But why would you do that in a form of I'm being disciplined? If you're disciplined, why would you put yourself in a situation that will tempt you and then try to be disciplined? That doesn't make sense. That just turned my whole world around in that one sentence. Why would a disciplined person put themselves in a situation in which they will be tempted and then try to resist? That doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? Don't put yourself in the situation in the first place. If you know, for example, if you know you're trying to stay abstain from sex, and some people abstain from sex until they're married. Some people abstain because they say, I'm going to abstain for 5 years or a year because I need to get clarity. People do abstain for many different reasons, to each his own. Because everybody have to answer for whatever stance they take. For me, I am abstaining until marriage, right? So, why would I put myself in a situation in which, especially if it's a situation that I've already been through and I know my flesh would be tempted? And did I pass the test before? No, I did not. Or I barely passed it. So why would I put myself in a situation that I know I would be tempted like I was before, and then risk my salvation, risk my relationship with God, risk the life I have now, risk the fact that I may or may not resist that temptation? I'm not doing it. I flee from sin. I'm not going to put myself in that situation. Because why should I? If I already know, I've been through that road. I've been down that road. With all of the experiences that I have and all of the things where God said, don't touch it, it's hot. And I touched it. I touched it because I was like, no, I'm disciplined. I'm going to touch it. Because my flesh wanted to touch it. That's what it was. No. That's why it's called a boundary for myself. And when you start reading the here words, the words up in here, and get that, and also you get the nice concordance out and start reading what it means. And when you start fasting, and when you start asking God specific questions, because it has gone to a point where I ask God about people in my life. If this person is not supposed to be in my life, remove them. If this person is telling me something that is coming from a place that is not good for me, have them reveal who they are to me. And people have revealed who they are to me. And I am thankful. Thank you. And I really don't hold anything. Like, I appreciate when a person tells me who they are, what they're doing in their life, who they are. That gives me the ability to choose if they will have access to me. If they stop doing something, like if a person up and stops talking to me, Instead of putting it on myself and saying, "Ooh, did I do something for them for them to stop talking to me? Did I offend them anyway? Did I hurt them?" No. I say, "Thank you. Thank you for removing yourself, because you wasn't supposed to have access to me." That's how I look at it now. I don't turn it on myself. In the past, I did used to be like, "Dang, did I do something? Did I say something?" Especially if it was somebody I liked. Did I do something? Did I say something? They're not calling me. They're not texting me. Like, I just text them. They ain't text me back for 2 days. Like, I'd be like, did I do something? I did. And over these last couple of months of me really being in solitude and really leaning on God 1,000% and really surrendering, and really learning myself and loving myself and knowing my worth, it changed my mindset. Because when a person removes themselves, when a person tells me who they are, when a person reveals their true motives, I tell them thank you. Because they didn't have to do it. They could have just kept the mask on, but they removed it. And I say thank you. And I actually give them big ups, because thank you, because you saved me. Because maybe that spirit, maybe they're a good person, really. Maybe they're fighting that spirit that may be within them. Maybe they're really like, that's a good person, and I don't want to bring any strife, negativity, or trip them up for what they're doing on their journey. So I'm going to remove myself, or I'm going to reveal who I am. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you doing that. Because sometimes it's a spirit in people that realizes that they are not where they need to be able to be a friend in a relationship, be a family member, a good family member, a good person to you. They're not able to be that. And something in them lets you know through their actions or through them talking and explaining who they are, lets you know, hey, I'm not in a good place right now. I can't receive you the way you need to be received. So I'm going to let you go. I don't have the capacity to love you the way you need to be loved. I don't have the capacity to be a good friend the way that you need a good friend to be. I don't have the capacity. Or I'm just not in a space to be able to accept the love you give, or accept the friendship, or accept the good person you are. I am just not in a mental space to be able to accept that. I appreciate those people, because that saves you time of anguish, of beating up on yourself, of pain, of future pain, hurt, confusion. It saves you when they do that. So I really appreciate those boys. I'd be like, no hard feelings. I wish you the best. I wish you the best. I really appreciate those people, because they understand the value I have. They understand the worth. They understand I love myself. They understand that they cannot provide that in which I need from them. I appreciate it, because the post I put today, as it states, when you forget your worth, you tolerate what you were meant to overcome. Because everybody does not have that spirit of, oh, I'm going to remove the mask early, or I'm going to let them know my motives, or I'm going to let them know I don't have the capacity, or I'm going to just drop them like I'm going to walk away. Like, a lot of people don't have that. So they will put you through stuff. And if you're not in a place where you're not tolerating certain things, you're going to succumb to whatever they have planned, whatever that may be. And then the second thing I talked about was, or I posted, the enemy goes after who you are before what you're called to do. There's a lot of us who are out here trying to seek our purpose. What's our purpose? What our purpose? I know I was for a long time. What's my purpose? What's my purpose? I want to do my purpose. Purpose, purpose, purpose. Purpose, purpose. What is my purpose? And there are people out here that feed upon that. Some are in the church. Some claim to be evangelists. And some claim to be all type of things. They claim to be. And they will feed off your need to know who you are and what you're called to. That's why I don't like people telling me necessarily like, oh, I see you doing that. I had a lot of people do that over the years. I don't like it because that puts me in a position in which now I have to, or my mind starts to try to create that reality, right? And then I'm going after things that I probably wasn't supposed to be going after because I'm trying to live up to what they told me subconsciously, right? Because you may say, no, I'm not going to do that, but then you do it because you're chasing after things, chasing after stuff, chasing after deals, chasing after opportunities, because you shouldn't have to chase what's already within your calling. It's going to come to you. You shouldn't have to chase it. So I have fell victim to that. And I would say victim because I was not wise, I was not knowledgeable, and but I overcame because I understand that what you're called for, you have to be trained for. What you're called for, you have to be trained for. And if you're not trained before you're called, you're not going to be walking in that calling the way God wants you to walk in that calling or your purpose on this earth. And if you're not trained, that means spiritually, by God, trained. Sometimes you get trained through your experiences because you were disobedient. I know I've been trained through my experiences because I was the person that would touch it even though it was hot. So I got a lot of experiences. A lot. That when I think back, why did I put myself through that? Because I wanted to touch it. Is it hot? Is it hot or cold? It'd be that one. So yeah, the enemy is going to go after you before what you're called to do. So if you don't know who you are, if you don't have that relationship with God, if you haven't been trained, the enemy is going to go after it and try to delay it because he can't take it. He can't take it. God gave that to you. He cannot take it. However, he can delay it. And some people get delayed until their death. And they never do what they were called here, purpose to do. Because the devil has delayed it so long that now they're on their dying bed. And they have not completed what they were supposed to do on this earth. One thing I can say, as long as you have breath in your body, you can still get up and complete what you were called to do. It's going to take work, effort from you, though. And the question is, are you willing to do the work? Because it is work digging through all of that trauma. And trauma meaning childhood things or things that you experience in your young adulthood or even adulthood digging through the crates and addressing it head on. Are you willing to do that? Because it's going to be pain when you do that. It's going to be hurt. You're going to have emotions. You're going to go through an emotional roller coaster when you address it. But you also have to take accountability. Because once you recognize that there's trauma there, or you caused your own trauma, there has to be accountability. Because once you recognize that, now you know. And some people try to unknow what they know. And that causes further trauma on the soul. So the ball is in your court when it comes to that. When it comes to knowing who you are and completing your calling, the ball is in your court, because everybody has free will. God gives it to you to make the decision to make a decision. It's called free will. So do with it what you need to do with it. Because if you're not taking it seriously, is God going to take you seriously when you standing before him? Because the same way you still playing games, the same way you're still not taking accountability, the same way you're still speaking negativity over people's lives, the same way you got that spirit on you and you refuse to rebuke it and get it off of you, that same way that you're still doing these demonic rituals and acts, just know God sees all. Just know that you have free will. And just know that if you are stepping up to the plate of doing what you were called for, the devil is stealing it. Well, he's not stealing it. He's delaying it. Because he can't steal what God gave you. He can delay it to your time of expiration. And then at that point, you'll be standing before the one that gave you that calling. And what will be your answer at that point?